We're going to look at triangle proofs that deal with the hypotenuse-leg theorem and parallel lines. Remember, you want to label everything that's given first. Angle P and R are right angles, meaning they're also congruent, and segment PS is congruent to segment RQ. We need another piece of information. So looking over here, we can't say that PQ and SR are congruent because we don't have a reason to, but SQ is congruent to SQ because that's a shared side, so that's congruent by the reflexive property. So that would be by angle, side, side, which remember doesn't show that two triangles are congruent. But because we have two right triangles, we can say that they're congruent by the hypotenuse-leg theorem, since the hypotenuse is congruent in both triangles and they both have a leg that's congruent. Looking back at our drawing, we still haven't acknowledged that this side is congruent in both triangles. In order to use the hypotenuse-leg theorem, we have to state somewhere that the two triangles are right triangles. And we know they're right triangles because we were given that there were right angles. Now we can say that the two triangles are congruent. If I call the first one QPS, the next one would be SRQ, looking at the congruent angles and segments. So those were congruent by the HL theorem, the hypotenuse-leg theorem. And now we can say that PQ is congruent to SR because we already proved that the two triangles are congruent and parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. In this problem, we're given that segment CA is parallel to segment TU, so that's usually denoted by arrows, and segment CA is also congruent to TU. We can't say that angles U and A are congruent, we don't have a reason to. We can't say that CU is congruent to AT because we don't have a reason, but CT is congruent to CT by the reflexive property since that's a shared side. We still need one more piece of information. Let's try to look at the fact that we have two parallel lines here. Because we have two parallel lines, we can think of this line as a transversal cutting through them, and these two angles are alternate interior angles. And because those two lines are parallel, then alternate interior angles are congruent. Now these two triangles are congruent by side, angle, side.